Welcome to my brief overview of Introduction to Hermeneutics by Rachel Bowman. So let's begin with why study hermeneutics and what is hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is the study of how to interpret the Bible. It's important that we study this because the Bible is written in a different time, different culture, and a different language. So to be able to understand that in our current day and age, it does require some study. The Bible is the most influential book in all of history. It is written in Aramaic, Hebrew, and Greek, and there are a total of 66 books in the canon of the Bible. Part of the joy of this class is that there were various ways that were taught to help us decide how to interpret the particular passage that we're reading. The number one thing that was reiterated time and time again is that context is king because context determines meaning. On the right, you'll see a photo of the circle of context. This helps us keep context in focus. So we can start with the target word or target verse and see the meaning there. If we can't find it there, we go to the next step, paragraph, the entire book, the author's writings, the New Testament, and further out. We do want to stop the closest circle in to the actual target text before we go too far out. We also need to remember the semantic range. The semantic range is important because a word in Greek does not necessarily transfer over to a word in English. So there may be several meanings for a word in Greek and several meanings for a word in English, and they may not transfer. So we have to remember the semantic range. And additionally, we have to remember the principle versus the custom. So for instance, in 1 Corinthians 11, it talks about women wearing headdresses. We have to look back and say, is that something that was a principle that was for all time and all people, or something that was a custom for that particular day and time? Another great tool introduced is the interpretive journey. The interpretive journey is important, especially as a pastor or leader. You can help others to determine what a particular verse is meaning. So as you can see in the photo, the first one is to grasp the text in their town. So what that means is to read carefully and to see the historical context and the meaning for the audience at that particular time. Number two is to measure the width of the river to cross. So we need to identify the common differences, the culture, the time, the covenants, focus on the unique differences, and if there's Old Testament, does it have a New Testament relation to it? Number three is to cross the principling bridge. So what's the theological point? What are the differences? Identify similarities and identify the theological point. Number four is to consult the biblical map. So to consult the biblical map, we just need to see how does it relate to the rest of the Bible. And number five, grasp the text in our town. So how do we apply this today? How do we apply this to specific situations in our current context? Our Bible is so unique. In one of the classes, Josh McDowell spoke about the uniqueness of our Bible. Talked about how it was written in over 1,500 year span with 40 different authors from every walk of life, kings, peasants, military people, tax collectors, fishermen from different places and continents like Asia, Africa, and Europe, different times, different moods, three different languages, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, and several different varieties of literary styles like poetry, history, narrative, and song. No other book throughout history has such a wide variety of differences, and is part of what makes our Bible so unique. It's also unique because of circulation. The Bible is the number one book in circulation, and it has been for years. The United Bible Society says that it has been translated over 2,200 languages, so it's unique in translation. There's no other book that has so many translations. And it's also unique in survival. It has more manuscript evidence than any other classical literature. It's also unique in teaching. There are no other books with predictive prophecy. The Quran, the Book of Mormon, the Hindu books, none of them have any sort of predictive prophecy like the Bible does. So the Bible has various ways that it's unique from any other book in any other time in any other place. It gives us just one more reason of many to trust that the Bible is true. Second Timothy 3:16 says that all scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. So we can know that the Bible is God's inspired word. And we can know that it's important to study the Bible and study it in context because context is king. And as David Platt spoke about in how to study the Bible, he said we need to study the Bible confidently, consistently, diligently, intentionally, and personally.